Hi, I'm here with Becky Papa. Becky, welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thanks so much, Julie. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I would love for you to share with the people that might be listening to this right now a little bit about yourself and who you work for, what you do for a living.
I live in Reno, Nevada, and I am in human resources with a large orthopedic surgeon group. And I have done lots of different things there, employee development and training and administration of benefits, which is my current position.
All right. Thank you, Becky. And you and I met on LinkedIn by coincidence, but I always like to say there is no coincidences. And we got connected through LinkedIn and we started talking a little bit about some of the things that you were facing, maybe some of the challenges in your life and some things that you would like to get out of if you had the tools and the technologies to really reduce stress, burnout, overwhelm, and perform a little better, that you might be interested in that. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about where were you before you and I started working together? Like, what were you experiencing in your life, and maybe just work and personal, if you'd like to share that.
Yes. Well, I was just in a state of overwhelm. I just felt like everything was difficult and frustrating and try my best to think positively, and of course it's been a kind of a crazy year anyway, but my job was changing, downsizing a little bit, so there was some stress there, financial, what am I going to do? I am getting near retirement age, how's that going to be? And just personally, just kind of wandering in my head and in my house. I remember telling you how I would just kind of wander through the house thinking I should do this or that and basically not getting much done.
I think that that is a symptom of being overwhelmed when we have so much going on and we're thinking about the future and we're having different struggles and strains in our lives. That wandering can be pretty typical for a lot of people because it sometimes gives us a break and from the mental thinking. And
Yes.
so I know that you have done some other things in the past. What sort of things did you try before us working together to try to get back more focus and clarity and get on track with where you chose to be in your life?
Well, I used some different apps, the Calm app for one, which I still love and still use for sleeping sounds, which are very calming to me. Thus, the name of the app. I've talked with friends, and I've gone to uh, holistic uh, physicians for health purposes, and just trying to talk myself into getting out of the overwhelm and the stress.
Yeah.
Works sometimes, not so well.
Well, I think that's the key that we talk about is when we seek out something to desire a change, is how can we have a permanent change? How can we shift something inside of us so that it sticks, so that it lasts for a while? And it sounds like you were in a lot of stress and overwhelm and wondering where things were going to be when you retired. And that was probably affecting your work on some levels. Would you say that it was affecting your performance?
I would say it had some effect, yes. Probably less focused, and perhaps less efficient during the day, not getting as much done as I needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we talked a lot about all the stuff that you had going on at work with the many, many things you were doing, like in employee benefits and payroll and all those things, and multitasking quite a bit. So I know that during the time that you and I worked together, you had some pretty major shifts. And when we started working together, we like to say that we're pretty unconventional in the techniques and the technologies that we use. So was there anything that we said, okay, it's time to dive in once you agreed to say this is the right path for me, that maybe you were a little bit skeptical about, of why am I doing this? Anything that you had some skepticism at the very beginning?
Well, I tend by nature to be skeptical of most things anyway. Um, and yes, I thought, okay, here's one more thing I can try. And, but I for some reason, felt this immediate connection with you personally as we had our introductory talk. And I was a little skeptical, but also fairly confident.
Fantastic. And pretty quickly, I remember you started making some changes pretty fast. What would you say was the first noticeable change that you experienced when we recommended doing these particular types of tools and techniques?
Well, the fact that I learned that our heart is so significant in everything that we think and feel, and listening to that heart and adjusting my thoughts as you teach us to do, just taking a moment and saying, recognizing the language that we're using with ourselves and turning that around and switching to a different language. And that that was amazing, because you know that in your head, that positive thinking, you put out, you get back what you put out, but I never really got it. It
Mm.
didn't really sink in until we started using those tools.
And what was it that sank in?
Uh, I think it was more or less um, okay, this is where there's so much, that sank in. I think mostly it was the ability to stop the negativity in my head.
Mm.
That constant self-talk that we do. I need this, I can't do this until I have that. I don't have enough knowledge, I don't have enough expertise, don't have enough experience. As I'm thinking about moving forward into other areas and just redirecting that internal language was a major shift.
Yeah. And what I really noticed in working with you as you're redirecting that language, some pretty incredible opportunities presented themselves for you in the direction that you are choosing to go into retirement. And I think it's a really beautiful testament that our words, thoughts, and emotions create a particular feeling inside of us. They also show that when we project onto the world, if we're looking through the lens of, I can't do this, I don't have enough experience, when an opportunity presents itself, we may not see it because we're sitting back here saying to ourselves, I don't have enough experience to do that.
Yes, you don't recognize those opportunities when you're in that state of mind.
And what's been beautiful to watch you is to see these numerous opportunities that are presenting themselves in exactly what you're choosing to do in retirement. It's been really fun to watch you blossom in that and walk into the faith and the confidence that you do have what it takes.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
super Becky.
The superhero Becky has emerged for sure. We talk a lot about that
Yeah.
going through the course, because part of what people are desiring is we have a supervillain, we have a superhero. And unfortunately, we tend to condition our supervillain with, I can't, it's too hard, I'm not good enough. And it becomes this subconscious programming. So it's running in the background. We're not even aware of it. And then when we become aware of it through the exercises that we have you do to uncover what's already there, then you start to realize, wow, what if I started to put my attention and condition the superhero Becky, which is what you did over and over again, to then create new opportunities and different connections. I can remember a couple times when you were at work, you were talking about, it's stressful. I mean, we are in the midst of COVID right now. And what you do in surgery, there's a lot of stress that comes with that. And so what I've heard you say a couple of times through the program is how you were able to maintain the focus and to remain connected to people at work, even when there was tension. And if you felt the tension, you were able to turn off the tension pretty fast and move into that state of resilience and move into that state of connection, not just with yourself internally, with others as well.
Absolutely. And you hit on another key a few minutes ago when you talked about that unconscious, you don't recognize the thoughts that you're having. I didn't recognize how negative I was being with myself, not necessarily towards others, but with myself. Don't have enough, all that. But then through the training, you really begin to recognize and stop yourself when you're having those thoughts,
Yeah.
and it can turn those around. So it's pretty darn amazing.
What have you noticed as far as when you're stopping those thoughts? What have you noticed as you're moving forward? Is this now commonplace for you to keep conditioning the superhero Becky? And is it easier for you so that when you wake up, you're waking up as going, wow, I feel peace versus waking up feeling, oh, I got to go to work or feeling that stress or that overwhelm?
Yes, it is much easier. And, the reality is we still have those negative things come up. Um, but I am very quickly able to stop to see it coming out and feel it coming out and stop myself and just redirect using different language. Um,
What happens when you redirect?
my So if I'm stressed and feeling overwhelmed, my chest tightens, my shoulders hunch up. And when I change and redirect that language, I relax my shoulders, my body feels more calm, my chest is not tight, and I can breathe. I feel like I'm breathing rather than holding my breath, waiting for the next stressful thought to come or moment to come. I can get over that very quickly now.
Which I think too, that when people can get over feeling that tension or tightness that we feel when we think a thought that then triggers an anxiety feeling, the anxiety feeling goes through us, or that feeling of overwhelm or frustration, we have a physiological reaction to it. And in that
Yes.
physiological reaction, it's like we get on that hamster wheel because the
Mhm.
negative thought, it sparks the reaction then turns it into another negative thought. Why can't I get out of this? And then you're on this hamster wheel. So did you find the ability to not only use the language and mindset, but literally how to shift your physiology to get your body back into that flow state or that state of balance?
Well, and that definitely happens when you stop the thoughts and you focus on your heart and feel a moment of joy, of something. My feeling of joy is the sign of the birds that you and I have talked about. I see birds fly over me every morning, and it's such a joyful feeling. So if you can grasp those kinds of feelings, it changes your whole body.
Yeah. From literally a scientific way, a physiological way, it shifts how our bodies are reacting to certain things. And what we love to say is we are literally biohacking our physiology, and you
It's
can feel it.
it's a miracle.
It's pretty amazing. Yes, it's pretty amazing. When you and I were just prepping for this, I love what you said is that my life is in peace and calm now because you're choosing that in every moment. So as you're moving into retirement and exploring this beautiful opportunity in front of you, do you feel as though you've got some tools and technologies that keep you grounded in knowing that you're making the right decision, whatever that decision may be?
And even if the decisions change, yes. Um, yeah, the tools, the things that I have learned through this program, I will use for the rest of my life. It has indeed been life changing, and whatever comes of the future, I know that it's going to be right for me. It's an adventure, and it's it's powerful and empowering.
And do you feel that you have literally shifted on a physiological level and a mindset level, that the shift is you had a baseline when you started, and now you have a new baseline. And in that new baseline, you have the tools to keep going and increasing your baseline to be more resilient, more in the state of flow and happier.
Well, yes, and it happens quicker. You know, in the beginning of the program, it takes a while to feel that those emotions and the relief of the stress and the overwhelm, and it's much faster now. So that I won't lose, that I will carry forward with me.
And that's the beauty of it, is that there is exponential growth, that once you get the foundation, and what we love to say is that when we are in stress, frustration, burnout, overwhelm, you may have heard the analogy of the frog in the boiling pot, that if you put a frog in a boiling pot of water, it will jump out because it knows it's dangerous. If you take a frog and put it in lukewarm water and warm it up, it will boil to death because it gets used to the water and the environment, and they just think it's normal. And so many of us go through life feeling this stress until one day we end up maybe having some physical challenges, not realizing that those physical challenges are tied into the stress that we've been experiencing over the past couple months or years, or maybe even decades for some people. We just think it's normal. We're in the boiling water.
Yes.
And once we let go of that and we're able to tune into this state that we call coherence, otherwise known as the flow state, now the baseline that we used to have of stress is now a baseline of calm and peace.
Yeah. That's a really good point, because now I recognize that my baseline is no longer down in that stress and overwhelm.
Yeah.
Sure, there are moments, of course, but that's not my baseline anymore. I'm not living that day to day today.
And
So,
like you said, you're able to get out of it pretty quick.
mm-hmm.
What have you noticed, like when you feel that at work or something becomes overwhelming at work and you're able to, the technique that we call shift and replace, when you're able to shift and replace, have you noticed that your brain's functioning different? Are you more clear? Can you focus more? You're getting things done faster?
I have noticed an increased level of focus and efficiency in getting things done quicker. And it's because I am not so down in the, oh, this person makes me crazy, or, you know, this situation is out of my control. I don't think like that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually learn that we move from sometimes being that super villain or the victim to realizing, wait a minute, I have control over how I think, how I respond, how my body reacts, what my thoughts are. And then when we make those choices of, this is how I would like the conversation to go, so I'm going to respond in a completely different way versus reacting. And I think that's a big thing.
Well, and that's so interesting about this program, because intellectually you can, you know, when you're thinking stressful, or, you know, when you're thinking bad thoughts about someone or some situation, you know that. But this program actually helps you really figure out a very easy way to get out of that. And I was never, I'm pretty smart, but I was never intellectually able to do that before. But it's in my heart now.
Yeah.
It's a
And
level of resilience that's just there and will stay there.
and do you feel like you have access to it at any time, any place, anywhere, no matter what you're doing and where you are?
I do. We all do.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just learning how to access it.
Yes.
So, any closing thoughts that you would like to share?
Oh, I just want to let you know that I'm just at peace. I'm calm. I'm comfortable with myself. I'm intrigued and optimistic about future adventures. And I'm no longer rattled. You know, now I'm composed, and I'm feeling light and airy and joyful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. It is such a pleasure to work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie.